Welcome to Fox 29 News Now. First up, we're going to toss you over. Philadelphia police is holding a press conference. A young girl riding her bike when a driver mows her down and never stops. Philadelphia police just released the video, hoping it would lead them to the driver. This morning, they're holding a press conference to give us an update their investigation after finding the striking vehicle just last night. So here is a live look at that. We are just waiting for Captain Kinnebrew and other officials to come out to provide that update. A little background, the 9-year-old Fatima Hunter remains in critical condition that we know of after she was struck by an SUV. She was riding her bike near her home on Monday night. Police have released surveillance video of the incident and have since located what is believed to be the striking vehicle. That SUV never stopped after the impact. Fatima's family says she suffered a broken femur and injuries to her ankles and lungs, but she is expected to survive. Her family is asking the driver to turn himself in. Hopefully we'll see that here today. And we'll wait for this press conference to pop up.
we're still waiting on somebody. I didn't know who we were waiting on. All right. So I apologize in advance. I'm a tad under the weather, so I got a throat lozenge in my mouth. If I say something that's tough to make out, just ask me to repeat it, and I will. So I'm glad you guys are down here. I'm glad you guys are staying with the covering the incident that we brought you down here yesterday for, the accident that occurred on Monday, the crash that occurred Monday around 7:30 on the 200 block of Lindley, where a motorist driving what we now know to be a Cadillac SRX struck a 9-year-old girl who was operating her bicycle on that street and did not stop to render aid or for any other reason, so far as we can determine. We have a couple of updates for that, and then I'm going to also give you an update on the arrest of an individual for an indecent assault that occurred out in West. And there's some interesting things I think you need to know, and I want to make sure that the public knows as well. So we'll start with the injury to the cyclist. Yesterday, approximately 6:30. And I will also say this, that this was due in large part to tips that we got as a result of media coverage that was given to this incident. Yesterday, so this ran all day yesterday, and at around 6:30, we received tips that the vehicle that matches that description, that also had some damage to the grille, was observed unoccupied on the 5100 block of Hutchinson Street, which is roughly in the area of 9th and Lindley. So the incident happens at 2nd and Lindley. This is roughly in the area of 9th and Lindley. Officers responded to the scene where they did in fact observe the vehicle unoccupied. AID investigators arrived as well, and they were able to compare some of the physical evidence they recovered at the scene to the damage to the vehicle. So they were satisfied that they had enough to hook the vehicle and obtain a search warrant. In doing so, they were able to ascertain who owned the vehicle. The owner of the vehicle is a 51-year-old female who also resides in the area of 9th and Lindley. The vehicle itself is registered to that person, but to an address on the 200 block of Lindley. Police checked that address yesterday, but it appears to be unoccupied. What I can say definitively is no one answered the door yesterday. By eyeballing it, it appears to be unoccupied, but we're not entirely sure, but no one answered yesterday. Approximately 7:30, the owner of the vehicle reached out to the police, and our accident investigation division investigators made contact with her. We know her identity. We know where she lives. She lives in the area of 9th and Lindley, so we've established contact. We still have the car. What we don't know right now for certain is who was driving it. So now we have to continue our investigation with the forensically, also looking for other things that might be able to track the movements of whoever was driving the car, because I don't want to make an assumption. It's for that reason I'm not going to release the name of the owner yet, because she's not been charged with anything, and we want to make sure. So we know who owns the car. We have the car. We have some more processing to do. If they haven't hit the car with a search warrant yet, they will be doing that sometime today to recover some other things that may be of evidentiary value, and we'll keep you updated on that. So that's where we stand with that investigation. We have the car. We know who owns it, and I'll take whatever questions you may have. But no one's in custody right now. So, to the extent that she did reach out to the police to make her identity known. That's the best I can pretty much say about that. Well, I'm going to pause on answering that, John, just because this is still a red-hot investigation, and at some point, someone's going to get charged with something, and that will then result in a prosecution. And I have to be careful what I say here that might jeopardize the prosecution successfully of the case. And I also don't want to say anything that I'm going to have to walk back. So when something becomes releasable, to your question, I do understand why you asked that, because it's a very relevant question. I'll hopefully, when I can answer that, I'll pull you back in and I'll answer it.
Did you say if she was not driving the car?
Again, I can't speak on the utterances that she may or may not have made to the detectives. What I can say is right now she has not been charged with anything, but we have a lot of work still to get to do. But we have advanced the ball, I think, significantly in that we have the car and we know for sure who owns it. And we were able to match, at least preliminarily. There's still, more scientific type investigation has to be done, but preliminarily we were able to match evidence that was recovered from the scene to the damage on the car. So we're very reasonably certain that the car we have is the car involved in that accident. It was a Cadillac SRX.
Did you say the vehicle is registered to someone else who lives at 2nd and 3rd?
The vehicle is registered to the person with whom our investigators made contact yesterday. In fact, she reached out to us, to the investigators. But the address that the car is registered to is the 200 block of Lindley. This person, this female, resides in the area of 9th and Lindley. And remember, the car was recovered at 5100 Hutchinson, which is essentially 9th and Lindley. It's the same. Hutchinson is between, what, 8th and 9th, and 5100 is Lindley. So the car was parked at around where she resides. So. We still have her in critical. We haven't had anything updated more than what Captain Overwise said yesterday. So as far as we know, she's still listed in critical. She's still in the hospital, and I'm sure she still has a long road to recovery. We're just thankful that we're able to advance this a little bit. And like I said, in large part because someone or some people saw the coverage yesterday and called and said, I know where that car is parked, and we were able to get out there. And I think some of you guys went out there too. So.
Two questions. One, at this point though, you guys are only being able to identify which drivers essentially by forensics measures? That's the only means you're using right now?
That's one of several tools in our toolbox. Unfortunately, I just can't tell you everything that the investigation contains, but that's one of several things that we're looking at to ascertain who was in the car at the time of the collision.
The second question, you said the public's help was a large part
Absolutely.
of how you guys discovered this car or SUV where you discovered it. Are you still looking for the public's help in, if they may have seen who was behind the wheel of that car now?
Absolutely, because again, it doesn't do us any good to charge the wrong person, which is why, we're happy, we're confident that we know who owns the car. We're confident that that is the car. But before we take another step, we want to make sure that we're good on that. So we're doing on our end forensic work and other things that are being done investigatively. But yes, if you saw someone exit that vehicle, or get in that vehicle at around that time or exit around that time, then yes, we would still absolutely ask that you avail that information to us, because that would just be one more piece of evidence that would direct us toward who, if it's not the owner, whoever it might be. Video will help us as well. Exactly. So, and that's one of the things we got to look at, the travel.
Would you say she's fighting for her life, or she's
the best I can say is it was critical yesterday. She sustained multiple injuries, fractures to her lower extremities, and I believe it was CHOP. It was originally Einstein, but they took her to a children's facility, which I believe is CHOP.
And I'm sorry, did you say that police went to the address on the 200 block of Lindley where the car's registration address is, but
Yes.
no one was?
No one was home. We think it's unoccupied, but what we know is that no one answered the door when we knocked. But about an hour later, we get a phone call. The investigators get a phone call saying, I own that car that you just took off the 5100 block of Hutchinson Street. And we were able to ascertain that person's identity. I mentioned she's a 51-year-old female who lives in the area of 9th and Lindley. And again, like I said, I don't want to put the cart before the horse because she's not been charged with anything, and we still have to work to do on our end. So.
Is it frustrating though? Someone knows that they were behind the wheel of that car.
Yes.
Someone knows that they caused this accident and this 9-year-old girl at the hospital is in the
Yes.
hospital. Is it frustrating to investigators that someone isn't coming forward?
That it is, and especially in this case, I believe Captain Overwise mentioned, and you saw the video yesterday, that there's no question. It'd be hard to convince me, almost impossible, that the person didn't know they struck the bike, because remember, the bike stayed on the hood of the car and didn't dislodge from the hood until about a half a block later. There's no way you didn't know you hit at least the bike. And so, yes, it would be optimal for someone to just say, that was me. But again, we'll take what we can get and work with what we have. We have to work with the facts that we have. And like I said, we have 2 facts that we're working on that hopefully will lead us to others, that we have the car and we know who owns it. Now we just got to get who was driving it, and that's on us to do. But like I said, if someone can help us further that, we'd be very interested to get that information. I mean, this has been one of those weeks like that where the missing girl a couple of days ago saw one of your broadcasts. The guy the family member that had her called because they saw the broadcast. Same thing here. They saw the broadcast, said, "Wait a minute, that's I know where that car is, and it's right there." So. I'm not going to comment on that, John. Again, I want to make sure that I preserve as much as I can, not only for the remainder of the investigation on our end, but I want to make sure that when we put this in a nice bow for the district attorney's office, that nothing we said or did here jeopardizes or obstructs their ability to really move forward with a good prosecution on this. So I'm going to just, if that information becomes available or releasable, I'll bring you back out. No problem. All right. So let me just reset real quick because we tagged this on, but it's no less significant. I was going to bring you out anyway for the update on the 9-year-olds that was struck that we just discussed. But I also have to bring to your attention an arrest that was made 2 days ago on Monday of a male for an indecent assault. The indecent assault happened during the course of the summer. There was actually several episodes, and it happened at John Kelly Pool, which is on the 4200 block of Avenue of the Republic, is actually the street that it's on. It's a Parks and Recs facility. It's in the 16th district. What's significant about this is that the offender here, and we've released his name, he's been charged, it was a warrant. Michael Daniels, 35 years old, of the 5100 block of Delancey Street, is an employee, or was an employee, of Parks and Recs. He was a lifeguard supervisor, and the victim is a 16-year-old girl who was a lifeguard. I don't know if she's a volunteer or was she getting paid, but she was a lifeguard, and he was her supervisor. We submitted his photograph to your desk. They should already have it, but this is his image. He's in custody right now. But the reason we want to make this known is to let you know that the arrest was made, but also in cases like this, sometimes there's more than one victim that we don't know about, and we want parents of children who visited the rec center or parents of other employees to be aware that this happened and talk to their children, poll their children, and see if there's something that that we need to know to continue investigating this. This one, he's charged, he's in custody, but if there are others, we want to know about it, and we won't know if parents don't know to talk to their children about it. He worked there off and on since 2013. That's at that particular facility. For very brief times when that facility was closed, he worked at Francisville, the Francisville pool, for a day or two. I guess there's the time difference between the days that Kelly closes and the days that Francisville closes. And again, it's seasonal work because it's summer, it's the pools, when the pools are open. But so the overwhelming majority of the time he's at Kelly. But there may have been a day or two that he's at Francisville. Again, I say that because if you were a parent of a child that swam there, or that had a child that worked there, or an adult for that matter, and encountered this person and something inappropriate happened. He's charged with indecent, the charges are felony count of contact with minor, felony count of corruption of minors, and misdemeanor count of indecent assault. And this happened in several occasions throughout this summer, 2018. The victim reported to a responsible adult who reported it to our special victims unit. They conducted an investigation, and 2 days ago, Monday, they arrested him. Yesterday, he was arraigned, and we have all the information now, the charging documents. So today, I wanted to make sure people know, especially given that he is in custody. So if there is a time where maybe there's some comfort to come forward and let us know if something happens. I'm not presuming one way or the other, but on the chance that it did, again, we feel obligated to make sure parents know that this happened at an area where you may have brought your children to, or your children may have worked at. So if there's any questions on this, hopefully I can answer. But the case at hand, I can give you a range. There were several points of contact, and the range of dates was, it began in July of this year, and it was reported August 22nd this year. So at or around July 16th of this year, up to August 22nd of this year when the report was made. Several instances where inappropriate contact with the minor took place. I don't have specifics like what day or whatever, but it was more than one incident over that date range. And it ceased, of course, when the report was made.
Did the alleged unlawful contact happen when the pool was open?
Yeah, it happened at the work. Yes, it happened at the facility while she's under his supervision. He was her supervisor.
I know things can sometimes be uncomfortable. What's the nature of the contact?
All right, so what I'm going to do, I don't want to get into the details specifically. Again, I don't want to do anything that's going to embarrass the victim. I also don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize the investigation. But what I will do is I will read the definition from the Crimes Code of what an indecent assault is. All right, so between that date range, July 16th and August 22nd, at the location 4200 Avenue of the Republic, which is John Kelly Pool, an individual touched the complainant without her consent and by forcible compulsion for the purpose of arousing or gratifying the defendant's sexual desire. That's the definition of indecent assault, and that's where I'm going to leave it. All right. And because of our age, obviously we have corruption of the morals of a minor and contact with minors because the contact was of a sexual nature.
Can you tell us if this contact happened like in the pool area outside or in the locker room area? You know, like just where?
What I'll say is it happened on the grounds. And again, there were several instances of it on the grounds. I'll leave it at that. I'm sure she's uncomfortable with it. These were not welcome advances, and it took enormous courage, is what I would attribute it to, for her to come forward with this. Again, she's a juvenile, and he's her supervisor. Amazing display of courage for her to come forward and tell a responsible adult who reported it to us.
You said he started working for the Parks and Rec, I think, 2013.
Yes, and again, it's seasonal work. So he's there for the summer of 2013, then he's rehired in, I forget what the month was, in 2014, then he's out during the winter, but off and on from 2013. I'll give you the month, they just sent that to me. Off and on from June of 2013 until the report was made, August of this year.
Any other job? Seasonal work, I mean, is he?
I don't know what else he has. I don't believe he has any other employment with the city. I don't know if he had other employment in the winter and fall months. I just don't know.
His age?
He's 35 years old. Michael Daniels, we sent his photo to your desk right before you came down here, and he's of the 5100 block of Delancey Street.
Was he fired or suspended?
He's not working there now, and I'm not sure exactly what their specific termination protocol is. He is in custody now, so he's not going to work anywhere right now. So,
And he was technically considered a
city employee, yep. Seasonal, back and forth. 2013 to August of this year. And so we want to make sure, like I said, that the big things to alert people that it happened, but equally as important, a lot of people, she displayed, like I said, enormous courage. There might be people thinking about it, debating it, and if their parents want to, sit down, have a private, candid conversation with them and ask, hey, did you work for this guy? Anything happen? Again, I'm not presuming one way or the other, but I want to make sure that everyone's equipped with the information so that they can talk to their children.
Should they call?
Oh, yes, and if that happens, you call 911, or you can call special victims, or you can go to a police station, or if maybe you're a third-party reporter. Maybe you were there, you saw something, you weren't sure, but now you're a little bit more sure based on what we've told you, then you can make those same notifications, or you can dial 686-TIPS. So we certainly welcome third-party notifications on cases like this, too. Good. Thank you guys so much. Yep.
Okay, you just heard the press conference with Captain Kinnebrew on 2 arrests, one of a Lindley Ave hit and run, and 2 of a second on a sexual assault in West Philly. Now, I'm going to take you over to some coverage of the Hurricane Florence. Residents in the Carolinas and Virginia are fleeing the coast as Hurricane Florence rapidly intensifies. Good Day Philadelphia's Mike and Alex spoke with 2 reporters who are standing in the storm's path. First up, here's Lauren Blanchard live this morning.
Because our Lauren Blanchard is in Wilmington, North Carolina. It looks like Wilmington's right at of Florence, that's for sure.
So good morning to you, Lauren.
Hey, Lauren, what's it look like in Wilmington right now? Not so much the weather, but like, are there a lot of people? Have people taken off?
Yeah, good morning, Mike and Alex. Well, as you can see behind me, it's actually a fairly decent morning here in Wilmington, but we have been told that some of the worst weather is going to start tonight. So they've warned, emergency management have warned, if you're going to do storm preps, do it today. And we have been seeing that here in the historic district of Wilmington. A number of the businesses, the buildings here are boarded up. It's fairly calm. We've seen some folks who have been out walking their dogs. They've been walking along this river here, but for the most part, it's been fairly calm, fairly quiet. Also in the town of Wilmington, a lot of those big stores, restaurants, chains, they have been closed down, or as of yesterday, they said, as of last night, they were going to be closed until, at least Friday, or until they figured out how bad this thing actually is. So fairly calm right now. People now just bracing to see if Florence really does hit this area and how badly.
Well, you mentioned some of the downtown businesses and some of the big stores. Have you had a chance to talk to any people or gone into any of the neighborhoods? Because I have some friends who live in that area, and a lot of times they say, oh, they always say this, and we're just going to brace it. We'll board up a little bit, but we'll be fine. Are people actually taking this seriously and leaving?
Well, if you look at how the interstate looked as we were coming into town, there was no traffic for us. The other side completely backed up for miles. We were coming down from Washington, D.C., and just about the last 2 hours of the drive, that entire thing all backed up in traffic. So there are a lot of people who are leaving. At dinner last night, a restaurant nearby here, there were a few people still in there since it was one of the only still open. People there were talking about, well, what are you doing? Are you staying? Are you leaving? Some of the folks in there were people like nurses. They were saying, what their schedules were, if they could even leave. But if folks were going to leave, they should probably do so by now, not only because traffic is very bad, but again, this thing is going to get bad later on tonight.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Lauren. Nice job.
We'll certainly keep checking back in with her.
Maybe Mike can do this. The history of North Carolina and their hurricanes. Well, there was one back in the early 50s, like 53, 54, 55, somewhere in there, that was gigantic like this.
And not even just North Carolina.
Was it Hazel? Hurricane Hazel, 1954.
And then you think about also South Carolina, Hurricane Hugo. And even when because I used to report in Myrtle Beach, they would still bring it up and talk about the effects. Like, it's something you never forget.
Oh, yeah.
So to have to go through this again.
And now I'm going to take you live to a press conference on some of the hurricane preparation in Charleston. Charleston officials are now at that press conference right now.
Low-lying area that has flooded in the past 3 years. Now is the time to evacuate. Chances are, when the storm strikes and the winds get up, and if you're in need of rescue, chances are there will be no emergency services to come to rescue you. So now is the time to evacuate, because there again, for the last 3 years we've had major storms, and this may be worse than what we've seen before. So now is the time to evacuate, because there again, when we have this storm, the emergency services may not be there to respond.
Have you guys brought in any boats yet to assist?
We have boats on standby. We will have resources on hand when the storm, for the aftermath of the storm, and those resources should be on hand by tomorrow afternoon.
At what point will the department decide, hey, it's too dangerous for even us to go out?
There again, we monitor the weather, we monitor the wind, and that is usually based off of the winds when we curtail our responses.
Regarding drainage, flooding is our primary concern about the upcoming weekend. We think there could be a real inundation of rain, not just in Charleston, but in the whole state of South Carolina. Locally, we've taken as best measures as we can. We've put portable pumps in place in certain locations. We've drained the levels of Colonial Lake and Lake Dotterer, West Ashley. We've had all our vacuum trucks and personnel out all week cleaning every ditch and drainage feature that we possibly could to try to get the water to flow as best as it can, no matter how much comes.
For those saying that Matthew didn't amount to what it should have been and Irma didn't amount to what it should have been for us in South Carolina, what would you say to them for those who are not evacuating because, again, they don't think it's going to amount to what it could be?
Batten down your hatches and be safe. But if you're in a flooding area like Chief Roberts just said, you really should get out. You really should get out.
Do you have any idea on shelter numbers? I know they're a last resort, so it could be a little too early, but do you know any about the shelter numbers? How many people have evacuated?
Last night I heard there were only a little over 200 folks residing in the shelter that was available. There's much more capacity. I did hear that you need to bring supplies and even a sleeping bag and a cot if you happen to have those. So apparently they don't. It's not the hotel Ritz. You got to bring some supplies with you. So keep that in mind if you're planning on sheltering. Well, thank you all for being with us and helping us get this message out. Anything else, Mayor? Anyone? Thank you very much. God bless.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
So on the peninsula, we're not charging anything. I suspect we'll probably go after if we're, let me just say, we're not leaving a single person at a bus stop after 6 months. You know what I mean?
We'll say it's leaving.
And circulated right downtown Springfield and all the downtown. No one's going to
Again, that was a live press conference in Charleston where officials are delivering a press conference on, evacuating the coast and, trying to get their residents to be safe. Earlier, Mike and Alex also spoke with Nunley out in South Carolina. He was on Myrtle Beach. He provided an update on what's going on down there, and I'm just going to swing you to that right now.
For Alex Holly, taking you back to your old station from 4 years ago, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
That's right. And so Will is there right now, and you're taking a look at the storm preparations. How are things looking right now on the beach?
Well, we'll tell you that things are beautiful on the beach. It's not even a sign of things to come. Still pretty manageable, decent surf out there, and it's going to be changing rapidly, as you know, over the next 24 hours. And with that changing forecast, focusing some attention southward now, the concern is only growing here in Myrtle Beach. We were taking a look at Ocean Boulevard and several places here around Myrtle Beach this morning, and lots of businesses boarded up and empty streets. So that tells us that hopefully people are heeding this call to evacuate, because they only have about 24 hours now before decisions or before the climate starts to change here very rapidly, guys.
Now, well, I know you just got there, but if you're off of Ocean Boulevard, that means there's plenty of hotels that go up pretty high for Myrtle Beach anyway, and lots of restaurants. So how are the hotels and things looking as far as when you mentioned some of the businesses?
We don't see a whole lot of lights on in rooms, and I say that just because that was one of our only indicators as we were getting here this morning, and even through sunrise, we're expecting to see some people out on their balconies starting the days. And I'll tell you, a lot of these hotels and high-rise condos that you're familiar with are not very full of life this morning. Not a lot of people out here on the pier. We've only seen 2 people walking the beach, so hopefully that's a sign that they are taking this seriously.
Will, you're a good-looking man, but I'm tired of looking at you. Can your camera person show us the pier and maybe the buildings along there?
Yeah, are they boarded up?
We can do that. Let's take a walk. All right, so here's our surf here, and take a look. The pier is just beyond us here, and we'll swing over and take a look at that. And again, that's going to be where people are this time of morning. They're out taking their morning walk and taking in this beautiful sunrise. Yeah. But that is not the case here this morning. It is definitely still an empty scape
out there. So how about behind your cameraman?
Again, I'm not kidding you when I tell you only 2 people have come by.
Yeah.
And while the cameraman is turning,
absolutely. So we'll zoom up here.
I just had a quick question. Since you guys
we'll
just
take a look at these buildings up here. I'm sorry, I'm giving him some direction. Go ahead.
Close.
Oh, you're fine.
God.
See, yeah, that's what I was thinking about, the higher up hotels, how they're going to manage with this. But when you were coming in, one of the main arteries into Myrtle Beach is Highway 501, and it always has a lot of traffic. Was there any traffic on any of the highways? People still trying to leave kind of early this morning as you were coming in?
Surprisingly, no. And we were traveling 501 starting at about 2:30 to 3 o'clock this morning. And that was one of the things that I was questioning. And again, I'm not familiar with how people normally react to evacuation orders here. Did that mean that they really got out yesterday and the day before when those calls were starting to be made? Or is everybody kind of waiting for the last minute? But the traffic was not. I expected to still see a mass exodus here even at that late hour. But the streets are quiet and calm this morning. I'm looking down Ocean Boulevard and 3rd Street right now, and it is quiet and calm here this morning, guys.
What does that say, Canal?
Okay.
I'm just looking at a live graphic of the progress of Florence. I also just want to take a look over at Morehead City in North Carolina. This is a live look of the beach. Doesn't look too bad right now, but the storm is yet to come. In just a few minutes, we're going to have our weatherman Mike Masco in for an update on what we can expect locally and what he knows about Florence. Again, this is just a live look at Morehead City in North Carolina, where we're keeping track of Hurricane Florence as it intensifies. Right now with me is our weather guy, Mike Masco.
Weather guy, huh?
If that's all right with you.
That's an expensive title, weather guy.
That's your title. You're a meteorologist. Is that better?
I'll take it. Hey, that's a gorgeous shot right now.
It is gorgeous. It doesn't look too bad. And look, people are enjoying it too.
Yeah, and this is great. So the experienced surfers are going to love this.
Yeah.
The next couple of days. But they say 24 hours prior to a hurricane landfall, you get some of the best weather, imaginable. And
really?
There you go. Look at that blue sky.
Yeah.
You just got and then you look east and you see the cumulus clouds starting to tower. So that's like the far, far, far outer bands of. It's a beast.
Yeah.
Have you've been watching it? You've saw the satellites, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got that buzzsaw look, but and it's funny. That's Atlantic Beach right there?
Morehead City.
Morehead City. Okay,
Yeah,
so Morehead City is kind of a little further to the north, and where we think, I'm calling it really the hammer zone, where we think, or even ground zero. Where we think it's probably going to make a landfall, somewhere around Wilmington, North Carolina. So, that's a picture that we'll probably try to take or something similar to that tomorrow morning on Good Day, where I'm sure we'll see something a whole lot different,
Yeah. I'm going to take you over to your graphics. I'll say hi to the camera.
Hi. See, I do exist. This is the weather guy.
And I'm going to talk about some of these graphics.
Yeah, we got it on a loop, so we'll kind of play through this. First off, it's incredibly active. Not rare. I know I've seen some tweets about it being rare, but it's very active. And we'll start with Florence, of course. There's the hurricane warnings. All of North Carolina, South Carolina, you're under a hurricane warning, and just incredible satellite picture of this buzzsaw hurricane. There's one thing you notice is see how the eye closes up? That's an indication that we're seeing what's called an eye wall replacement. And what it's doing is it's cycling through. It goes to the peak intensity, it cycles down, it closes its eye, it reforms, and then it doubles the size of the eye. So you see the winds are at 130. We'll get the 11 a.m. advisory and then eventually a 2 and a 5 o'clock advisory. The numbers might actually get corrected down, and then they'll go back up. There's the track. It's somewhere around a 3 at landfall. Look at the wind projections. Oh, my goodness. I mean, 109 mile an hour winds in Wilmington sometime Thursday night. That's really only a part of this story, shockingly, because the other aspect of the story is, of course, the rain that could be around 2 feet. And we could be looking at inland flooding numbers around 7 to 11 inches of rain. The third aspect, of course, is the storm surge potential, where it wouldn't be shocking to seeing 2 feet of storm surge. That would bring you up to, and if we go back on camera, because this is just going to cycle through, but that would bring you up to a, really the second story. So you think about the house, right? That would be your second story of your house. It would bring you up to. And we saw this in a Katrina type situation where, people were going up to the attics. I think they had like an 18 or 20 foot storm surge with Katrina way back in New Orleans. So, it's one of those things where, you might have to get up to your attic to escape the Atlantic, rushing in sometime Friday. It would probably be Friday morning when you get the high tidal cycles to go to work. But yeah, if we go back, we'll show you the track again on that storm. What's going to be interesting, you can go ahead and flip that around. What's going to be interesting is with this storm, and we talk about hurricanes and how they track. Usually, North Carolina historical hurricanes bring these things up the coast and out to sea. What's so unique about this, you see this on the rainfall plot, how it's plotting from east to west. That's the trajectory that this storm's going to come in. We call it a perpendicular head-on landfall. And what's so noteworthy about that is that you're talking about a storm that's bringing the Atlantic Ocean inland. It's not bringing it from south to north. It's not bringing it, west to east, bringing it out. It's bringing slamming the whole Atlantic into the coast and beyond. And that's what I think is going to be so significant from this storm in comparison to the other storms that have hit the North Carolina coastline. And, you got to go back to the 50s, 60s. Hugo comes to mind. These are storms that came in at a perpendicular angle, and the outcome was catastrophic. And that's a word we don't typically throw around pretty easily, because you say catastrophic, that's probably you don't get much worse than catastrophic.
Yeah, it's fearful. It puts some fear.
Right, and a lot of people go, oh, well, this is the weathermen or the meteorologists and then the media, and then you got the fake news that floats around every nowadays, and you go, oh, it's just fear mongering, and it's not.
Yeah.
Are some people more guilty than others? Probably, I think. But the way this is setting up, the way I tie this stuff back to history, is that, and like to what I just said, when you get a storm that's perpendicular angle coming in, we can actually say this happened in 53, this happened in 67, this happened in 44 or 33, and we know the outcomes and how this all went down. So this isn't, I'm not the one to use the C word, catastrophic. Okay, I'm not the one to say that, there's going to be a mass loss of life if I didn't feel that was going to happen. I'm not trying to drum up ratings. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in scaring the crap out of people to get a rating.
Yeah.
I believe in making them understand the level of, it's like Sandy. When the governor went on the beach and he said, get the hell off the beach, and, everybody said, whoa, that was the big quote. There was something there.
Yeah.
Look at the outcome of Sandy. Billions of dollars later, loss of life, and people still trying to rebuild. So we can't say this enough. How is it going to impact Philly, right? I think that's a lot of people are kind of going, all right,
that's what I want to know.
What is in it for me? It's indirect. We're looking at, rough surf. We're already starting to see that down along shore points. We looked at some Ocean City cameras today. We're also looking at dangerous rip currents. The weather is going to get nicer as the week progresses, so that means people are going to want to get in the ocean. This is the best time of the year. It's called local summer, where everybody, all the tourists are gone. If you're Stone Harbor, Hardy resident, this is your time now, right? Nobody's bothering you. You got your pick of the litter on that beach. And you're going to want to venture in. The problem is that it's the dangers that lie below with this, and that we have now this washing machine effect. When you got a storm that's so deep, it's kind of like an earthquake, a deep earthquake, and it generates tsunamis. Same idea almost. You got central pressure that's pouring down onto the ocean. It's like a bowling ball dropping it down, and it's sending ripple effects out. And that's doing a lot of things underneath the surface of the ocean. So you don't know that things are pulling this way, that way, out, in. And there's no lifeguards on duty. So if you get caught in one, you're gone. You're out. And if you don't let it take you, if you don't know how this works, somebody's not coming home the next day from that. And that's the level of seriousness here locally. By Tuesday and Wednesday, we could get some rains and some gusty winds from this.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
So that's it. That's all we got.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, thank you for joining us.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And
be safe.
We will.
From Weatherman. See you later. Mwah!
Okay, and that was Mike Masco, our meteorologist, with a little bit of an update on Florence, some good insight there locally and for our friends down south and on the coast. Next up, Steve Keeley was out at Philadelphia Airport, our reporter, and he was speaking to some travelers who are fleeing to Florida. So here is a look at that.
Just first thing, next to scheduled flights that were expected to bring evacuees from the Carolinas, even before 4 a.m. One from Charleston, South Carolina, then another from Wilmington, North Carolina. Then the other word, flights from other Carolina airports delayed. This one, 3 hours from Columbia, South Carolina and counting. As airport officials expected those numbers to rise.
This is actually very similar to what happens in a winter weather situation. The airlines tend to be very proactive about these situations, and they may start canceling flights in advance. So again, if you're scheduled to fly over the next few days, stay in touch with your airline and check flight status information directly with them.
And Philly's Red Cross leader was among the rare flyers going to the Carolinas instead of leaving, ready to mix some brotherly love with that southern hospitality to help anybody who needs it.
We're no rookies to hurricanes, and we've learned from last year, and that's why we're prior planning and pre-positioning all of our products. But redcross.org, certainly financial donations are most impactful. This storm is going to cost us money, and obviously we're going to have to reallocate that, and that's the best way right now. There certainly might be, as the storm develops, there might be other needs, but certainly that's our need right now.
With this hurricane having a direct impact to the East Coast soon, financial, schedule, and life impacts will soon be felt by more than just the airlines and air travelers in the coming days. At Philly International, Steve Keeley, Fox 29 News. Back to you.
Again, sorry, that was our Steve Keeley reporting on our locally Philadelphia International Airport, people fleeing from the Hurricane Florence. Next up, let me see, Apple is releasing some new products this year, and we got a little look at that with our tech expert Anthony Mangaluzzo, and here it is from Good Day Philadelphia.
We want to put up this Twitter poll that we started a little while ago. Are you excited, basically, is what we're asking. Are you excited about the new iPhone products that are going to be displayed today? Now, can we get rid of the bug? How many people have voted? 400, okay, 409 have voted. 27% say, look at that big number for no. You know, I'm not excited. And especially the third one, 26%, well, maybe I'll get excited if the price is right. So let's find out. It's a big day for Apple lovers.
It certainly is.
Our spy is with Alex Holly right now.
He's the spy, okay? So all this information is coming from him. You have some great sources. Anthony Mangaluzzo, our tech expert.
We got some great sources, and typically we're pretty right. We'll talk about one thing we might have missed last year, but starting off, there will be a new iPhone. They will announce it. At least 3 models. I heard on the sly maybe 4, but I'm going to go with 3.
Okay.
It's going to be the XS, going back to the old tradition.
Okay, so we're going to start with the phone first. So we're going to start with that. Because I'm one of the people that Mike mentioned in the categories, not just about price, I also care about what is on it. Is it really that much different than the phone I already have that was, what, a year ago?
So here's the deal. If you have a phone like me that was from last year, there's not much difference.
Oh,
it looks
man.
about the same. It feels about the same.
Okay.
You're going to get a slight processor bump. You're going to get a few little things
So
with
it'll be
tweaks
a
with
little
the
faster?
colors. Yeah, now, if you have a phone from 2 or 3 years ago, this is an absolutely incredible upgrade. One of the things, though, on the Max iPhone, which would be a new design, instead of having 2 camera lenses on the back, there might be 3. I don't know what you need 3 for.
Don't we have a list of, okay, there we go. So let's back up a little bit so we can see as you go through. Okay, we're still covering stuff. Okay, so
there
those are 4 iPhones. Then, the camera display. Talk to me about that.
So that's the camera display where it's going to actually potentially have 3 cameras right on the back to really stabilize those pictures and give you some amazing shots. So that's a bump, but only on at the large phone, the Max. So you're shelling out $1,000 for that too.
Okay.
So let's put that out there.
Then it says reduced price iPhone. Is that the older ones are now going to be cheaper?
The reduced price iPhone is going to go back to the C model. Now, the reduced price, get ready, $699 is the rumored reduced price. So, again, while reduced, still pretty expensive.
Okay, but the battery life is going to be good.
That's what we're hoping for. I've been beta testing the new iOS 12, which is coming with the phones. It is a little bit better, but that is the chief complaint of Apple users right now. Poor battery life.
Now, the last new iPhone we had was like $1,000. This one going to be like $2,000 or something?
It's going to be about $100 more is what the
Okay.
rumors are stating. So we're going to know a little bit more on the exact price. But again, remember, the $1,000 phone gets you the base of that. If you want to get all the fully loaded features and all the storage,
shell out the money.
more. New case, everything.
Mike had to leave the room for this part because the Apple Watch, he just bought one, a
Ugh.
brand new one, last week.
Why didn't he call me? Mike, I
know,
would have
we
told
should've.
you.
Because now they're announcing a new one. So tell me about this new Apple Watch.
So the new Apple Watch, it's actually the first time that they're going to change everything since 2015. So I'm excited about it. I have the latest, greatest, and frankly, I don't think it's that useful.
Okay.
The new watch is claiming to boast a 15% bigger screen,
So,
which
okay,
is going to
bigger
help
watch
a
face.
ton.
Mhm.
The other neat feature is walkie-talkie. You're going to be able to talk to someone that has an Apple Watch like a walkie-talkie. One other pet peeve that I have, I want credit when I go to the gym and do things. I forget to hit the workout button on my watch so it doesn't give me my street cred. Now the new watch is supposed to be able to detect when you work out.
So it'll just know.
It'll know, and I like that. That makes me
Okay.
feel good.
I like that. So Mike has been working on his 10,000 steps. That'll help him out. What about this charging pad? The Air Power charging pad? What is that?
So Apple announced this actually last year, and they said it was going to be coming soon. It never came. What it actually is it's a mat that you lay down, and literally you could take your devices and just plop it on there. So my watch.
Well, don't these
my Apple
exist
Watch-
already for other phones?
They do exist for other phones,
Okay.
but they don't exist for Apple.
That's what it is.
And you could pay more money, but it could charge 3 devices.
Ooh, at
so
the
that's
same
pretty
time.
neat.
And is it faster than just plugging it into a wall?
It's actually, in my take, I think it's going to be a tad slower just
Oh.
because, look, the plug's always going to be the fastest. So
Hmm.
I didn't see the tests on it yet because they haven't been out. But again, if you're overnight, not bad.
Now, you guarantee that this information is all correct.
Well, maybe we'll
kidding.
talk tomorrow.
I'm
We'll
just
see.
kidding.
We'll see.
No, it's more than we knew before this. So it's going to happen today, and then tomorrow we're going to review everything that was put out there, and we'll see if it's worth it.
Now I'm going to put one out there. I hope it comes out to talk about it. The Apple Car. I know that thing's in production.
Like
They
an
gotta
actual
announce it.
car or a
They
toy
were going
car?
to have a self-driving car at some point.
Wow.
So I think tomorrow might be a little premature, but I'm going to put it out there. Just
Okay. All right, then. We'll talk to your sources some more. All right. Thank you, Anthony. We appreciate it.
Okay, that was for all you Apple fans out there who are excited for all these new products. Apple should be announcing that later on today. Now I just want to take you over to the final test of a parachute program for landing in NASA's Orion spacecraft, which will carry astronauts to the moon and beyond. Here's a look at that right now.
There's the 3 pilots, 3 mains. Now these will inflate through reefing stages similar to the drogues. It's more pronounced on these mains, so you can see a light bulb shape there in the 3 mains. This is looking really good so far. Now we're into the second stage. They're a little bigger, and if you listen closely, you can hear those mains inflating, and there we go to the full open. Beautiful shot right there. 3 mains spread out. You can hear the crowd in the back cheering. We're not quite done yet. There's still a lot of stuff in the air. Eventually we'll see the cover come racing by and impact the desert floor. But here you can see the 3 mains bouncing in and out. That's completely expected. You can see there's holes in the sides of the parachutes. We put those there. They're supposed to be there. We call that geometric porosity. That does reduce the drag of the parachutes, but it does increase the stability. So the increased stability makes those flyouts smaller than they normally would be, which means that on average, our drag is higher. So one of these 3 main parachutes was actually what we call environmentally tested. So we put one of these parachutes through the entire sequence that a flight parachute would see. This includes what we call creep testing, thermal cycling between high and low temperatures, vibration testing, and rapid depressurization testing. We did all that throughout this calendar year and then integrated it directly onto this vehicle to validate the design to ensure that it can go through those environments without having any issues.
Okay, and that is all for News Now today. Continue to take a look at this hurricane, and hopefully we stay safe. And thank you for watching.